Okay, this is the Scituate Council of Aging meeting, October, well,
You want to present it, or you want to present it?
November 12th, and it is now 6:05.
I apologize, I had so much on my mind.
And John Powers, the chair, and we will have an introduction of the, starting with the chair.
Hi, I'm Dale Baylog. Meg Stillman.
Richard Mitchell.
Jim Harmon.
Lawrence Charles, Joan Powers, Audrey Reedy.
Martin O'Toole, Board of Selectmen.
Okay. Now we will, go over the minutes. If everyone had a chance to read them, if not, go over the minutes and see if they're approved.
I'd like to give credit to Noreen Rowley and Jill Johnson, who assisted me in the typing of the minutes. And they were a huge help to me. And thank you, thank you.
Are there any additions or corrections? Do I have a motion that the minutes will be heard? Second? All in favor?
Aye.
So moved. Now we will have the director's report.
May I ask a question?
Yeah, well, on what?
The new lock, has it been installed? That was the old business.
No,
It's a month later, it hasn't been installed.
no.
Is it any talk about when it's gonna be installed?
I really, honestly, I haven't seen Kevin lately, so.
Okay.
Excuse me, can we have a copy of the materials, Debbie?
Oh, Big Florence's report.
All right, the first thing I'm going to talk about is Hugh Cutler's report for transportation. As you know, this year we will be doing 7,000 transports for seniors in the town. And even better, the town doesn't pay for it, GATRA does. So we bill out when the transportation, and we have 3 vans. We take people to Boston on the link, to local transports, to the market, to their doctor's appointments, to events in the town, to different things that they need to see. We usually they go to Walmart or the Hanover Mall, and they have lunch and shop. So we use the van also on Sunday evening. The St. Luke's once a month has a wonderful dinner for all the seniors and for the community. And we take our seniors who don't like to drive at dark, we take them on the vans. So, and we are very, very fortunate in the fact that we're able to pay for this, and it will continue. They will increase the budget as the need is increased. So we're a lucky town because we're the last town to get in. Okay, Q has this month, for the month of October, we're doing the stats for the month of October. Daily rides were 556. The Link, which is the out-of-town medical van, it has to be medical only, 83. The MAP, we did not use. Volunteer drivers, there were 10 of them, for a total of 649 transports. The volunteer hours were 27. We didn't have any escorts, no volunteer escort this month. And the total miles driven on our vans were 1,336. The next report is from our outreach, which is our social services. And this is the agency that really most people don't know exists and probably does more work than any of the others in terms of providing resources for seniors who need them, making house calls, working with families that need to place their parents, doing emergency calls at home for a parent, a senior at risk. The list goes on, and they are inundated with clients. Fortunately, unfortunately, we lost our community coordinator, but we have hired one today. She has been with us as not a volunteer, but a paid, out of a grant. Her salary was paid. She's worked for the last 3 years under those circumstances, and she's done an outstanding job, and her name is Jenny Gerbis. She's a town girl, grew up in Scituate, and she will start officially as an employee of the town tomorrow. So we're very, very happy. And we do have monies for her replacement, as well as something we so badly needed here. We do an awful lot of activities, we do a lot of events. That takes a lot of coordination, setting things up, if it's an event that needs an entertainer, getting an entertainer. For the last 6 years, I've been doing it. And it's on top of what else I do, it's a lot of work. So, and the other thing we need is volunteer coordinator, because when you get a volunteer, you have to have something that's going to keep them busy. If you don't have a volunteer coordinator who can assign jobs and who can say to staff, okay, I need some things, we've got so-and-so, she's really good in the computer, she can do inputs, you need to have this ready for them. And lots of times staff forgets, so you have somebody who can train volunteers, who can adjust their schedules or increase their schedules. We already have a group of volunteers that are marvelous, that come for events, they come to do the newsletters, they come anytime we call them. But we so badly need extra people on the front desk. We need people who are able to use a computer, able to take some of the load off the staff, because it never ends. So we're very, very happy to be able to say that we're going to be putting those new staff on board. And they're both being paid out of a grant. So, which is costing the town no money. Okay, so this is my report on programs. We were late getting our newsletter out, and for that I apologize. We've been working understaffed because we lost Nancy and we were having to hire somebody else. As I have stated all too often, November and December are very busy months for any senior center. We have fuel assistance for the whole town. Numbers and needs are creeping up again this year. Change of insurance allowed from late October to early December, and that's the prescription insurance, as well as regular program and activities. At this time, we are short a staff person because Nancy has left. The Matter of Balance program has been a great success, and Bob Jackson's MAP programs is getting as many raves. If you try to get a parking space at the center on Wednesday between the hours of 2 p.m. and 4 p.m., forget it. They are parking everywhere. Both programs had large waiting lists. The irony of all this is with a couple of programs we are seeing seniors from other towns. Halloween was a blast for us seniors. It was well attended. It was also it also generated a waiting list. God blessed us when Norman Tetrol came to the center for Shine. This is one of the most generous volunteers we have. He extends his time and returns calls on his own time. He also sends out materials to seniors about the changes available for prescription D. Thank you, Norman. You are the best. This is about it for this month. I will take it up again in December. And my report is, things are fairly static at the Council of Aging. We're in the middle of doing our budget process, which is long and cumbersome. It isn't just made up of a budget or that you would think of. Along with our budget this year, we have to do comparisons of 4 towns that have senior centers to determine what their salaries are, how many seniors they see, what's their square footage, and and so that we can compare. Every department has to do the comparisons. We also have quite a chronicle that we do, and it's made up of, we have to set goals for the next year, which are four goals for the next year, and how we're going to achieve all of those goals. Then we also have to do, we have to do a whole thing on what the components of our services are, what they entail, how much they cost. We have to do our achievements, what we've accomplished for the years, and then we also have to do our risks and challenges. And that takes many, many days and a lot of work and a lot of typing. I've been sitting at my computer for 3 days straight. Sometimes, especially now, it's pretty crazy here. MAPS has been such a success that I talked to Bob Jackson yesterday, and he is going to extend it for another in January, and he's going to do the MAPS program. And the MAPS program is really interesting because what it is the MAPS of Scituate since its inception. And he talks about the topography and what the land looked like and the changes in the land over the time. We have 28 people. His class goes sometimes to 3 hours. They sit here for 3 hours and they don't move. They get up for a break and that's it. We have a waiting list of 25 and we have 28 that are there. We have people calling us all the time, when is the next one happening? So what we're doing is, in January, Bob is going to do another MAPS, plus he's going to do a class on the cultural changes in Scituate since the beginning. So the people who will have finished MAPS are going right into that. So I'm really excited about that. I mean, when we have courses like our Italian courses and things like that, it brings enrichment into the lives of seniors, and it's really something that, we really are very happy when we can do that. The Matter of Balance is a program that's a national program. I don't know how many people are aware that seniors cost about $16 billion a year because of falls in insurance, in medical bills. And not only that, many times seniors are never the same after they fall and break a hip or break a knee. That means a trip to the nursing home, and then from there, that's it. So we want to prevent that whenever we can. We do that with our exercise program, but this is a special program that comes out of Stanford University, which does a lot for in geriatric care. And this program is nationwide. And we were able to get a grant so that we could offer this program. It's only 15 people. I have a waiting list for that too. But we could only have 2 programs because I could only afford to pay for 2. And the grant was a small one. But it's been very, very successful. They have really gotten a lot out of it, and it's really, having had a bad fall not too long ago, I can tell you, it really is something that you really need to be aware of. So, and especially for seniors. So that's all I have, and I thank you all for being here.
Thank you. Is there any old business that anyone to bring up? Then I'll go to new business. The beginning of the new business, I've passed out to the board a motion that I would like to make. We'll make a motion and then we can discuss. We as the board will work with the Friends of the Scituate Seniors and any other group or individual who is interested in joining the endeavor. The goal is a standalone senior center. Size is determined as population indicates 15,000 to 18,000 square feet, in line with those senior centers with a population such as Scituate. We feel that it would be prudent to build it on the land that was originally designated for that purpose, which is the Branch Street location. We will continue to work with the Friends of the Scituate Seniors and others to achieve this goal.
Very nice.
Do I hear a second?
A second.
Is there any discussion?
Yeah. So, are we going in order? Is this the agenda order? you
New
want?
business, this is new business.
New business, but did you skip number 4?
I said old business and no one,
No, number 4, at least on my agenda, is welcome to the Friends of Scituate.
yeah, well, we didn't have this motion, so I'm putting the motion
Okay,
first.
okay. So, I'm on board with asking for a suitable size facility, and I think the 15 to 18,000 square feet is appropriate. And a little later, I'll provide some data to back that up. I'm not necessarily on board that it has to be standalone or that it has to be Branch Street. I'd rather that we stay open and flexible to where it could go, based on available funding and, available opportunities. I'm a little concerned if we narrow ourselves down like this and say it has to be independent when it doesn't have to be. I know preferably it would be, but it doesn't have to be that way. Whether we're saying Branch Street and ruling out Gates or other options, I have difficulty with doing that at this time.
Well, I feel that what they have done for Gates is way, way lower than the seniors could put up with. And it doesn't look as though they're gonna really change, and the fact that there's no bathroom facilities, storage, no room for Meals on Wheels, and for expansion for more seniors.
Joan, I think that's a misinterpretation of what's planned today for Gates, and we can get into that. And I'm not defending the Gates plan by any stretch of imagination. The June set of documents that was handed out by Durkee Brown, the architect for Gates, I think was a very confusing document, and kind of unfortunately so, because it muddied the waters. They, in that document, which wasn't clarified until last week practically, and I'm not sure how many people in town actually understood the Durkee Brown document. They pulled out, when they looked at the space they were allocating to the senior center, they removed from the square footage total all of the hallways, all of the storage, all of the bathrooms. That adds up to 30 to 40% of the total amount of space that's in that corner that's allocated to the senior center. So, on the document, it says, I forget what the total is, 6,200 and something square feet. It's actually more than that. But the only thing they were tallying up to get to 6,200 were the offices, but not the hallway leading to the office. The kitchen, but not the storage facility for the kitchen. So it was misinterpreted. It wasn't clarified until the town administrator went back to Durkee Brown for a clarification 2 days before we had the public meeting, whenever that was. And I think, so, That said, there's probably between 8,000 and 9,000 square feet in that corner that has been allocated to the seniors. I don't think that's adequate, which I made clear at the public meeting. But I think we should just be accurate in what we're describing, at least what's laid out right now.
And those plans are in no way finalized. I mean, they were very rough, was my understanding, and not, I mean,
They're rough. I mean, the purpose of doing those kinds of plans is to make sure you've got an adequate amount of space. You know, when you start getting down to detailed design, you do change things a little bit, but you don't change them a lot, typically, because you're kind of undermining the whole point of doing this rough cast of, is there enough space? So I think the rough cast is, produces an inadequate amount of space for the seniors, no doubt about it. Whether, assuming Gates comes forward at some point, there can be a lot of space added to the senior center in that building or not, that's to be seen.
There is the possibility of taking and putting another wing off of the back of the building and adding on to that area, which we could pick up another 4,000 or 5,000 square feet. That is a possibility. What I'd like to hear is what is the magic number we need to have to arrive on, so that when we look at Gates, is it a possibility to still go into Gates? Which I believe, from what we're looking at, like Meg was saying, the drawings are just kind of rough, and they noted some areas and things that they shouldn't have done, probably, because it's very misleading. So, to take out all the things that you were saying, like hallways and all that sort of stuff, based on a typical size building, that 6238 is probably equivalent to probably another 2,800 square feet of the spaces that you're referring to, roughly.
I'm not sure it adds up to quite that. That's why I said
So
somewhere
with
between.
bathrooms and hallways and whatnot
Even
on
with
a
that, I think it's
standalone?
somewhere between 8,000 and 9,000 square
Right,
feet.
right,
if you
exactly.
add it in.
It's about what Hingham has now, and it's not, they need more space.
Right. So, can I talk a little bit more about how much space we need? I know it's a little out of order, but it seems to kind of maybe fit with the flow. So, we don't have copies to hand out, but I'll run through what I presented at the public meeting, which was it last week or 2 weeks ago?
2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago. First, kind of an acknowledgement that there have been efforts in the past. There was one in 2001. There's a set of architectural drawings for that. There's another set of architectural drawings from 2006, 2007. There have been previous efforts to try to get a senior center built, something that be adequate for the seniors in town. For whatever reason, they haven't worked out. There are still people who kind of have hurt feelings from that, and who are kind of walking around finger pointing. I'd say let's move forward. And as we move forward, we want something that's big enough. We also need to take into account, the impact on the town's finances, on the real estate tax base of the town, and the other needs in town. So we're not. I think we want to be asking for something that's appropriate for us, without asking for too much and having it be too big and expensive. Again, there was a lot of confusion around the gate square footage. The flyer that you guys put together was put together before the clarification occurred around, how much square footage was actually in the Gates drawing. And I know you tried hard to verify the facts on that beforehand. So there's also a question about, whether gates can be made to be suitable, in size and scope for the seniors. And, we're just interested in finding a constructive way to, get this moving and to make it happen. Then we talked about the population growth in town. It's anticipated to grow almost 50% in the next 17, 18 years. It's about 5,500 seniors right now. It's going to go to over 8,000. It's a huge increase, and when you plan for space, you need to take into account that, you know, in 10 years, 15 years, you're gonna have an awful lot more people here, who will wanna take advantage of a suitable senior center. So we need to accommodate the growth. We then went through, and a lot of information in the following pages is from Emmett. Emmett, raise your hand, say hi. And Emmett, your title is?
Program Manager for Councils on Aging and Senior Center.
In Massachusetts. And so Emmett, and via Florence, provided, you know, what kind of design considerations, you know, do you need to have? How wide do the hallways need to be so that two wheelchairs can pass? Or, you know, where should the bathrooms be? How big a kitchen do you need? How much parking do you need? So there's a lot of information, and there's been a lot of construction of senior centers in Massachusetts in the last 10 years. So there's a lot of examples, you know, to go and use, and frankly, there are quite a few architects around who have experience doing this, and some of the architects who did the previous renderings are still alive and kicking, and you know, I'm sure would love to come back and refresh things. Another thing we talked about was, should we, you know, have a standalone facility, or should we co-locate it? So co-locating would be, I mean, in some other communities like Hingham has a senior center connected to the town hall. It's not working for them. You know, others might have it next to a school or next to a community center, or I'm not sure there's a magic bullet for this, and I think Emmett would say there's no like cookie cutter approach to building a senior center for a town. You kind of got to look at, you know, your needs and your finances, and decide, you know, what you want to do. And again, this is for information we got from Emmett. 49 Massachusetts towns have constructed senior centers just in the last 7 years alone, which I was surprised by, because that's an awful lot of building of senior centers. Only 8 of the 49 are located with something else. The balance are standalone facilities. And I would say, well, I'm not ruling out co-locating, or I wouldn't rule out co-locating. It does take very careful planning so that you're sure you've got your parking and your bathrooms and your kitchen and everything else that you need. I don't think it's impossible. I think it's difficult to plan like that. Got some information that the town of Wilbraham put together as they were looking in what to do with a senior center, and this is from 2012. You know, they have got a graph of about 20 different towns, and the average square footage per senior for senior centers that were being built, and this again in the last 10 years, was 3.5 square feet per senior. So if you've got, let's say 100 seniors, and we've got a lot more than that, then you do 100 times 3.5, and you'd get, you know, you need 350 square feet for 100 seniors. We've got something substantially different than that. So if you take our, well, before we get there, we also looked at, and this Florence and staff were very helpful in pulling information together. So the average from that Wilbraham study, senior centers ranged from like 2.5 square feet per senior in these newly constructed facilities, all the way up to 7.4 square feet per senior. So very wide range. Again, the average was 3.5. In Marshfield, they've got a 12,500 square foot facility. They've got a little over 5,000 seniors. So they come out to, right now, about 2.5 square feet per senior. But they've got plans to build and add on another 4,000 square feet of space, which would get them up to 3.2 square feet per senior.
Duxbury's doing the same thing.
Duxbury's at 12,500 square feet now. Their average is 3.23 square feet per senior. Hanover's on the small side. They've got 7,500 square feet for only 3,000 seniors. So their number is 2.5 square feet. And we, sitting right here, we have roughly a half. So, too small, pretty obvious. So if you take the, kind of the figures, the 2.5 square feet per senior on the smallest end of the scale that Hanover has, and multiply it times the number of seniors we have today, let alone how many we're gonna have, in 10 years or so, you need a facility that's about 14,000 square feet. If you take it at the Wilbraham study average of 3.5 square feet per senior, again, times the number of seniors we have right now, you get a little over 19,000 square feet at the average. Emmett, and Emmett could talk for himself, thinks we should be planning for the future, plan for how many seniors you're gonna have, and have more like 5 square feet per senior, correct?
I have to be careful when I use the word recommendation, so I'll hold off
Okay.
on that.
So
I'll be happy to speak.
The range is somewhere between 14,000 and 27,000 square feet. So on this piece of paper that Joan was talking to, we've got 15 to 18. 15 to 18 is kind of in that range. It's on the smaller end of the range, but we're not a town with, a lot of extra resources. So I think that's why we're at 15 to 18,000 square feet. We're getting off of 11,000. I know that a lot of people keep quoting 11,000. 11,000 is what was in the architectural drawings from 2001, when Scituate had a lot fewer seniors than it has today. And when I'm not even sure we had at that point in time, whoever was doing that, whether we had data from around the state about how big a senior center should be. So again, we want to move forward. We want to build something that's appropriately sized. And so we've got a kind of a new number, or a new set of numbers in mind. Another question that comes up is, this is from, I'd say, more of the naysayers. So, you've only got 3,000 square feet now. Why in the world would you need, something that's 15 to, 18,000 square feet of space? Why couldn't you be happy with 6,000 square feet? And the answer is, just because, you crammed into a little tiny building, inappropriately so, doesn't make doubling that inappropriate size be the appropriate amount. And the other thing that's on this Wilbraham study from the other senior centers, many of whom went from very small to appropriately sized, is that they saw just an explosion in the growth of attendance at their programs, the number of programs they were able to offer. Basically, when you have a good facility with a well-rounded set of programs that you can offer, a nice space, a welcoming atmosphere, the whole town will show up. As opposed to now, where we don't have a particularly great facility, and it turns a lot of people off, and we don't have room to, Florence does the best she possibly can with what she's been given, but it's, you'd see an explosion in growth. One of the things we talked about was, and what's the likelihood of gates? The original rationale for moving the senior center and town hall and portions, or maybe all, of the rec department to Gates was that the middle school was going to relocate to the current town hall location, therefore kind of forcing town hall to up and leave and move someplace else, and why not, try to make good use of a vacant school, especially if it, was a reasonable cost. These folks that at least I've heard from who are taking part in the school selection process, or school site selection process, have clearly said that the middle school is not going to the town hall site. It's going, it might go nearby, I don't know where it's going, but it's not going there. So then we've had a little bit of discussion about, so what's the rationale going to be? Not that, Seniors certainly don't need the rationale. They know that they need to move to something nicer and bigger and appropriate. But, you know, is an alternate rationale gonna be developed for relocating some of the things that were being talked about being relocated? And again, can we be made whole in Gates? You know, if there is a rationale and we're gonna head in that direction. So we ended up just wanting to, you know, have some kind of a process move forward to address the seniors' needs, have a vibrant, appropriately sized center, start working on solutions that have a high probability of success, you know, and to get a senior center built in the next, I'll say, 4 years or so. It's not just kind of on the town to get it together for the seniors. And this is my opinion. You know, we need to get organized. You know, we need to get a voice. We need to start doing some fundraising. We need to start having more of a presence in town, and I think start using our vote. And I think that we can get someplace. And I think and it should be done in collaboration with the town, not kind of fighting them.
I'm just wondering, I don't know, if you know, I'm new with this. It's, and I don't know how this compares to the other towns that you looked at. But right now, it seems like getting a larger senior center sort of depends on, you know, whether other things are gonna happen in town, whether the town votes to move the town hall to Gates School, and then they've got the master plan up on Yellis property, and it's not its own thing, it's part of a whole bigger thing that's gonna cost, you know, the taxpayers more money. And that's my concern. You know, these other towns, I mean, I don't know, I'm just asking, I don't know if you know.
I don't know.
When these other towns planned their senior centers, if it was part of a bigger plan. I mean, obviously, some of them probably did add on to another building, but, I mean, some of them must have had their own building too.
I can tell you of the three that are built around us, and the one that's going over in Cohasset, they're not in conjunction with anyone, and it wasn't planned with anyone. Hanover was planned with a school, and that was a political reason, because at that point they wanted a new high school, and they wanted the vote for the new high school, and people wanted the new senior center, and they got it, and same with Plymouth. So Plymouth was built in conjunction with North Plymouth High School, which is absolutely gorgeous, and so is the senior center. We're not looking for anything like that. It was done because, and one of the concerns I have as somebody who loves the people in this town is I hate to see community go against one another. But I will tell you that there is a time when it will, because it's just and it's right that they have a place that they can utilize. They pay taxes, they built this town. They have put 4 or 5 generations of kids through school. Every time there was a school up, they voted for it. This is, it's not something that any senior should have to beg for. It should be, we have reached out to the community. We have a good relations with a lot of young people are very supportive. We just had a dinner done by the 12 women of Scituate, and the Cushing School is giving us another dinner. We are at the Jacob School, we have the Girl Scouts in here. We are reaching out to the community, intergenerational. I love the idea of intergenerational. It makes sense. The kids love it, and so do the seniors. That's some of the best times they've had is with the kids. So I think there's a lot of things that could happen together. And I think they would make sense. But I also think that, speaking as I guess the only voice right now for the seniors, is that because of where I sit, which won't be much longer, but the idea is, it's the seniors, it shouldn't be if Gates gets defeated, which it very well could, especially since it has changed in terms of its definition. It's no longer going to be on the town building site that it was going to be. And they certainly have a right to decide where they want to put the school for many reasons. It's a congested area. But, you know, that should not be the answering toll. I do not like to be told, as I have been told, that if we do not get Gates, we will never have a senior center. And that's pretty sad.
I think if we're gonna be realistic about this, if she's got the right idea, you can't just have one plan. You've gotta have plan A, plan B, plan C. You've gotta be flexible. What we want is a spot. It would be heavenly. Let us have Branch Street, build this wonderful facility, and everybody would be happy. Everybody wouldn't be happy, because they'd be crying about the tax rate, for one thing. If we could get a benefactor that would like to help us out and build it for us, everybody would be happy, and it wouldn't cause any fuss. But if we get in a war or a controversy, we're gonna just spin our wheels and waste our energy.
And I also think, I get what you're saying, but we don't really have choices in the matter, because of the timing, it is all gonna be connected somehow. And so I just think we do have to all team together and find solutions that's gonna make everybody happy. And I'm with Richard as well. I'm really comfortable with those numbers, especially based on the information you shared, which was excellent. But I wouldn't be comfortable with limiting it to, I mean, if that's best case, you know, that would be awesome. Everybody would love it, but I think we have to be open and willing to work with that.
Having spoken to people that have worked at building it, the message you get is a tremendous amount of work. I mean, it's not gonna do us, it's really a lot of work to just get people to listen, whether or not support you, just to get their attention. But I think everybody, I would say by just the show here, everybody's ready to work hard. The thing is, we have to get a workable solution. Like you said, we wanna measure its success.
You know, and I don't even know, maybe I can ask you this. But if it were to go into the gates, that's a historical building. Can CPA money be used?
We're actually looking into that for part of the project. We really don't have an answer on that yet, but yeah, we are actually looking into that.
Yeah.
Is there any other discussion?
Can we put in another motion?
Well,
Or
we
does
have
this
a
one have to be
motion.
voted on?
It has to be.
Yeah, so we have to.
So all in favor? Opposed?
Well, I just want to say that, I voted in favor of it, because if you look, even if you look back at the motion made last meeting in October, by Mrs. Reedy, this was a motion made at our board meeting in October. Because I've been on the board, I think, probably the shortest amount of time of anyone, but 3 years, I believe. And this discussion, as I sit here, has not changed much from my first meeting of 3 years ago. And, we went on a tour of all the sites. We've had this discussion countless times. And apparently, I think we might have it more countless times in the future. But anyway, referring back to the motion made by Mrs. Reedy, at the October meeting, our focus as a board is to get a new senior center with a specified amount of space based on demonstrated need. So that motion was approved by the board. So this motion today, which just got defeated, goes one step further, tries to be more specific. And, you know, I think we just have to get specific. We're just going around and around in circles, in my opinion. But this motion just got defeated, but I also see it as one step, just a little bit more specific than the motion voted on by the board in October. And yet, the people who have voted against it, we're stepping back again from making a commitment to what we want. What do we want?
We want a senior center.
Right.
What, I guess, just to be honest, if I'm into this, I play to win. If the only way I can win is give up a standalone, my dream. I'll have to give that up to get something else. So that in the meantime, another 10 years. I mean, how about, we've been talking about this since '01 or even before.
Right, you guys have
We
been
want
talking
to
a
do
lot
what's
longer.
doable, what will give us a measure of success. If we could come up with money for a standalone, that would be perfect. All I ever hear is there's no money. So,
I don't feel like we're stepping back.
Yeah.
I think
Stepping
we're,
back from this motion that we made, I should have been clearer.
motion today,
Yeah.
yeah.
Because, you know, it's the
This
city hall.
is gonna take a while. I mean,
Yeah, the City
and
Hall-
you're right to be frustrated. I think a lot of people are frustrated. I think what we have is a better idea of how big a unit, how big a center we need. We didn't have that before. That's not a lot to have, but at least we've got that. Now, you know, what we need is a group of individuals that will have the time and energy to move it forward. We haven't had that. So, you know, this group talks about it, but this group doesn't have the time and energy to move it forward, not necessarily the know-how. I think that's what we're hoping others will help with.
What I said the other day at the meeting, which I think is our best approach, is we're gonna hear from some experts. We're gonna find out what is the magic number that we want to do, that we need to do. Then we look back at Gates and say, feasibility. Is it feasible to be able to get that much square footage in that building? Is it or isn't it? And then I think we'll have our answer pretty simply, of whether we need to go to some other facility.
Is that possible?
I believe, what I'm saying is, once we develop a plan of what what Richard was saying, I mean, if you start multiplying it out, we get up to 15,000, 16,000 square feet. And again, knowing what's going on in Gates, I don't see that is, you're not gonna take 6238 or whatever it is, and turn that, you know, almost triple that. I don't see that happening. Maybe I'm wrong.
Again, it's not 6238, it's 8,000 to 9,000 right now. So we'd be talking about adding, you know, whatever, you know, 7, 8.
Well, whatever the number is, Richard.
Right.
Is it whatever, the numbers really don't matter.
Can you fit it into Gates?
Right, so in
Yeah,
other
you can
words.
fit it into Gates.
But what do we eliminate?
Exactly.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So when we come up with that number, now you start looking and you say, instead of spinning around like we have been doing, is you come up with a number and you say, is it possible to put this in Gates or is it not? And then you know your answer right away,
Right.
instead of guessing for 2 years. You know, so that's what I think is the best plan of attack.
Emmett, would you like to say a few words?
That's why Emma would be the great person.
Sure. Good evening. I've been, I work at Elder Affairs, you probably know that. I've been working with councils on aging for better than 35 years. I've been the program manager, I've seen COAs grow, I've seen the population grow. Virtually everything's growing because, you know, the population that was born prior to the 50s in the 50s and went to school in the 50s is now 50 years older, and the world looks a little different now. And I've been in a fortunate position because I have a little bit of design background and a little bit of other things. Mostly, though, I try to be a resource for people. That's what I do. I don't make decisions. I know people think I make recommendations. The state doesn't have requirements. I mean, it's not like the library where you're, every town is unique in Massachusetts. Every senior center is unique. Every senior is unique. So as I've said in many secretaries, because I've been through a number of administrations, I say, when you've seen one senior center, you've seen one senior center. So, in part, I'm a little, I guess, I want to focus on something that I think we're mentioning, but I think we're missing in part. And I, among other things, I teach grant writing, I do board training, I do all sorts of other things. And you're arguing about a senior center, and I'm going to suggest to you that's the wrong argument. The argument is, what is the unmet need? Because a lot of times when people write grants, they say, we need a van. And I say, no, you need transportation. And when I hear about senior centers, it's, we need a senior center. I said, no, you need the ability to serve elders. That's the point. If senior centers, we have senior centers that range in size from 2,000 square feet to about 32,000 square feet, maybe a little bit more. Peabody started out, when it built a senior center, when it had 8,500 seniors, roughly where you're going to build, they built at 30,000 square feet. And they added 2,000 square feet only about 4 or 5 years ago. They're at 32,000 or maybe 33,000 square feet. Because why? Part of the discussion is really interesting because the issue is, in part, as I see for communities, it's typically somebody says this needs to happen, and then it happens. The business of a senior center being built because that way seniors will vote for a school, that's not uncommon. That happens more frequently than I care to mention. I think it's a little unfortunate, but I think the issue is, leadership has to matter. Seniors need to be advocates for themselves. And I could name communities, and by name I won't do it not because it's a public meeting, but I would name communities that you would be surprised. Affluent communities that have taken 20 or 30 or 40 years, as in, we're talking decades here, of creating a senior center. And it's basically because somebody wants to say, this needs to happen. Now, I'm trying to say, you're going to say unmet need. A lot of the stuff, you mentioned about the Stanford study. Fitness is important. Little numbers. 1/3 of all people 65 or older fall each year. About 35 to 40% of those people end up hospitalized. In the space of 2 seconds, you can possibly change your whole life. But senior centers, to me, are not what we're talking about. They're not about seniors. They're about opportunities. And I wish I could get that across, but I can't have some mellifluous phrase like senior center. But basically, for most people that I've been in virtually, not all, but probably better than 250 senior centers, I've been in my share. Most people, when I ask them to raise a hand, do they view this as a home away from home? Virtually everybody raises their hand. So what you're building is in effect a home, but really what you're building is a place for opportunity. So when you go into some place, as happened just recently in a small town, and they said, oh, well, we have volunteer instructors, and people bring in their own laptops, or they bring in their tablets, or they bring in, and they do it, work in the seniors, Wi-Fi, they take it home, it's already done. This is opportunity for seniors to do what? To stay in touch with their grandchildren, to go online, to check on their stocks, to do whatever it is. Those are, in my opinion, opportunities. And whatever you're going to do, please consider it in light of what you're able to do. It has nothing to do with age. I've been in this business a long time. I have seen people in their 90s. Eleanor Roosevelt said something really, I love quoting. She said, we become old only when we stop making a contribution. It's a great quote. And I have seen kids who I think are quote, old, And I have seen people in their 90s who are never going to die based on that, because they are still going. They really are. I mean, this is the kind of thing. So we pick age because we think it means decrepitude or something. It doesn't mean anything until you've been out on the floor with an 80-year-old Greek woman who's doing, you know, belly dancing and saying, she's in shape, what the heck happened to me? You know, and those are the kinds of, those are real things that happen. So to me, the building is a means to an end, and I'm trying to say to you something. Your population, I'm very much, thank you, Rich, for you know, citing the stats and where the community is going to go. I see communities trying to catch up to the past. But I've been in the business now, I got the, you know, 35 plus years looking at this stuff and saying, this is where we're going to go. Just a hint, across the country, using the middle range of the census estimates, the population will grow through 2029. Okay, that's it. So you'll be looking at another 30% or 40% increase nationally. We are an older part of the country already. There will be no decrease nationally, none, in absolute numbers before 2050. So when people are building a senior center, they're thinking, oh, this is going to be, you know, I could name, I won't do it here publicly, but I'm happy to do it, you know, name the communities, but I know I provided some information. They're already adding, we're talking about Marshfield now, they're adding, what? They didn't complete the upstairs, now they're completing it, right? Town of Franklin, same thing. Smaller population by more than 1,000 here, and they already know they need 18 or 19,000 square feet, but they built it in. Now, the city of Newburyport has done the cleverest thing I've ever heard of in this business. It was very simple. They built a senior center, they put a wing on it. They're renting the L, that other part of the wing, and they say in 5 years if we need it, we can expand into it. That was clever. They're the first people to do it in the state. You know, others are sort of, Barnstable said, we can't afford to finish it now. You go to the senior center in Barnstable, and they left the whole basement just concrete, nothing. Beautiful location, we don't have the money to finish it, but they built so it can be expanded. Because the two principles that I see in senior centers of any size, there's only one senior center in the state that I think is actually big enough. I'm not going to say where it is, but it's not in eastern Massachusetts, that much I'll say. You have to be flexible, and you have to be able to expand. Now, I think the senior centers, I have this little thing I've been saving for years, came out of a cartoon from the, I actually saw the original, this guy was really funny. Everybody here has been in a diner at some point, okay? And I've been in my share of diners along the way, fine. So, the guy says, Judy, you see that elderly couple down at the other end of the counter? And she looks that direction and says, yeah, what about them? He says, I was just thinking, that's probably what you and I will look like in about 10 years or so. And she says, you do realize that's a mirror at the other end of the counter. and unfortunately, I think we are not really seeing ourselves in that mirror. And it's really funny because we don't, you know, you look and you say, when I turned 60, it was like, you know, what am I supposed to do now? So on my 60th birthday, I went to the fly zone or jump zone or whatever in Dedham, and we rented trampolines for an hour, and we bounced up and down. And my nephew managed to injure himself, went to the hospital, and the person at the hospital didn't know how they got the injury, and he said, you know, it sounds to me like you ought to be hanging around 60-year-olds. And he said, funny thing, that's what I was doing. True story. I think, you know, I'm here as somebody who loves a sense of community. I always have. I started doing volunteer work in 7th grade, organizing hay rides. You know what the hay rides were then? People put the hay everywhere, and they used to have those lit, those little balls that look about like bocce balls, lit. I thought this is kind of crazy. They change it to flashing lights at some point, but you know. But the point is, the sense of community to me matters. And I'm in elder service. I've been in elder services for now actually 37 years. You know, and it's like because I'd like to see a sense of community, what we can do for each other. That's not a plea. I've been in a town that I live in a town that built a senior center way too small. I'm not going to say the town. But, you know, I see it, but it's just kind of, it becomes awkward for me because I like to help people. I genuinely do. There's a reason I'm here tonight. I was in Pittsfield last night until 8:30, till, you know, trying to get stuff. It's like, this is what happens. If I could do something to help, I want to. And I thank you for using the information. I brought more copies of it if you like. We are not, I want to make this clear for the record. I know that the Patriot Ledger says the state made a recommendation. The state did not make, I don't make recommendations. I take what I see happen elsewhere and say, this is probably what you're going to need, and then say, let's talk to these people and see, does it meet their needs? And I suggest to you, when we had a town, which I don't mind naming, town of Hopkinton, when they had 1,400 seniors, they built a senior center at 14,000 square feet. And actually, they had a problem running out of space within a year. Because it depends on what's in there. It's not a building, it's what you bring as people in the community, saying, you know, I like to make model ships. In Pittsfield, no affluent community, they just bought a new kind of a device. There's a guy turning out, this was on Chronicle about 2 years ago, turning out violins that sell between $5,000 and $7,000 in the basement of the senior center. Because that's his opportunity. And this is a true story. I mean, places in North Shore, they do the ship modeling. You can do it's your place. You own it. And it's a place for you to come in and say, you want to play duplicate bridge? You go to the town of Freetown. Anybody know where Freetown is? You have the gateway to Lakeville, right? If it's 60 people show up to play duplicate bridge in the town of Freetown. Why? Because nobody else is doing it. And elders will travel anywhere to do what they want. But your concern of needs is the people who can't get out so well. The people who need transportation. They need support. And those are the people that I'm concerned about. People got their own keys and their own cars. You know the last thing an elder wants to do? Give up the keys. You already know that. So I'm trying to think of a community and a senior center community that says, what can we do to help keep us in our own homes for as long as possible? That is the mission of Elder Affairs. I don't mind saying it. It's a mission of Councils on Aging. Anybody here looking forward to institutional care, please raise your hands. I'm not seeing any hands for the sake of the record. There are no hands that went up, right? This is what it is. And I think you should be looking at this and saying, what can we do? We don't have to limit ourselves, and I think a lot of times we do. In the memorial words of Lucille Ball, I love this. She says, aim high, that way you keep from shooting your foot off. and I think that's part of what I see. So I frequently come into a process. Sometimes I come in before, and I still think this is before. And if you think, some of these towns that I'm not naming, if you don't think they spent 20 or 30 or 40 years, 40 years, they have. I've been around long enough to know it. So I'm saying the process is something, if it's worth doing, I think it's worth doing well. Because this is going to be your home away from home. And that's, if there are remarks, so I got plenty of remarks. I can go 2.5 hours, and I know your mission. But I want to. My bedtime. I think. I guess if I'm going to put something in your plate that you're probably not thinking about. One of them involves veterans. Where like 7 wars actually still veterans, and I see that veterans now. Plymouth, I think, did a nice job of incorporating veterans, and more communities are doing that. I think it's important. And I'll tell you why it's important. Because the Council on Aging, in over 95% of the communities in Massachusetts, is the only public social service agency. The only one. So if somebody's applying for the SNAP program, or fuel assistance, or Medigap. I mean, if it's anybody here benefit from a Shine counselor? Right. These people walk on water as far as I'm concerned.
They do.
I mean, it's just, but you can get information you can't get someplace else. When my mother, who was ultimately diagnosed with Alzheimer's, went to the Council on Aging Supportive Day program in the town of Dartmouth. And she was frail. She shouldn't have been there, but I think they let her stay in because I grew up in Dartmouth, and I'm the state program manager, and I know that, but you know what? Without that, I don't go to my professionals at Elder Affairs. Not that they're not professional, but the COA knows exactly how you deal with circumstances when somebody is frail, because they live it. That's what makes the COA so valuable, in my opinion. It's veterans, supportive daycare. A couple more things and I will call it quits. The supportive daycare to me is important.
Yes.
And why is it important? I've been to a couple meetings with senior groups in the past week or so, and I said, what would you tell the selectmen if you had to say something? And I had 2 of the 3 right. I missed one. The seniors were matter. Supportive day matters. Actually, there's 4. The business of senior center being served as serving as a shelter. That is a big deal, because you can't. I'll give you a real story. I'm working with the town to be perhaps of Devon's, okay? Shirley, Air, Harvard, Mass, right? It's part of that. And I've been working with them. They're a corporation that's set up theoretically to make it a town. So I happened to have a conversation with 2 of the selectmen, one who was active, one who recently retired from the town of Harvard. And it was all about other different matters, councils on aging, fine. And we got through the conversation. 10 minutes after I made this remark, he said to me, I never thought about that as a senior center, because they've got $3 or $3.5 million. They're going to, it's a small town, but they got some serious money, fine. And I said, you know what happens in Plymouth, this is because of Nemo, the storm, you all familiar with it, right? Well, this is what the COA director, what did she do? She knew where people were frail or vulnerable, and she went out and did the intake. And so one woman was in a car covered with snow, saw a little smoke coming from the tail end. Why? Because she didn't have any heat, right? She's in the car trying to keep warm. Not a great idea, folks. Okay? I mean, this is, so why did this matter to the selectmen? He said, well, we could rehab what's called a place called the Hildreth House, which is a beautiful place. I've seen it. He said, but I said, it can't serve as a shelter. And why was it important to him? Because in 2008, they lost power due to an ice storm for 11 days. 11 days. He reminded me of the story because I had forgotten it. And, you know, I'm trying to say to you, I don't know what you're going to do with this thing, but I'm saying to you, it is a resource for the community. Everybody's going to age. Not everybody's going to need the police department, the fire department, the public health, but you're all going to age. God willing, you're all going to age. Okay? So I'm trying to think of this as a place of opportunity, and I guess really that's my spiel more than anything, is when you're looking at the senior center and the things, the figures that you have seen. I'm not making a recommendation. I'm going to say, do you want to have something for the vets? Do you want to have supportive day?
Yes.
You know, I mean, those are real things, because what does supportive day cost on average in Massachusetts? $35 a day. What does a day in a nursing home cost on average? Figures here? Anybody?
$371.
That's a bargain. If you can get it for $400 a day, you're doing okay. That's what it costs. So you're thinking about, what do we want to help me stay, to take care of my spouse or for my child? And little thing, this just came up last night, you know, rural towns, they said, you know what, we need housing that has 2 bedrooms. And I'm thinking, why? Everyone else wants. Why? Because the caregiver, if her husband's got COPD, she can't sleep in the same room. The snow, whatever's going on, can't sleep. And you'd say, well, why does this matter? Because you want people to have their care giving with their families, that you make those up. Am I saying you should do with housing and do the rest of the stuff? I'm saying there are a lot of things with aging that I think our whole society has not. I'm not trying to lecture, but you know, we're not thinking about the fact that for the next 35 plus years, we're looking at a population that's growing and is going to grow in need. The boomers yet don't have need, because they're not even in their 70s. And in our business, under 70 is young, by definition. Okay? Routinely, that's what it is. And I'm simply saying, if you want to think long-term, that's what I've been in business for a long time, and I hope to continue doing it. But I don't want to be in the business of making recommendations, but if you want to see what others have done, then call them and say, does it meet their needs? They will tell you, because they're living with it daily. Okay? So I genuinely thank you for inviting me. I'd be happy to answer questions, but I just want you to know where I'm coming from with this. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions?
is, and that's an essential part, sure,
Right.
absolutely, and that's part of it, it's all part of it. But thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there any other discussion? Richard, was there anything else that you wanted to? Okay, the reports. Jerry's not here. There's no report, so I will give a report. The South Shore Elder Services. Oh, okay.
Yeah, I know you don't want to be, no, that's no one. Yes, yes, you got the October's.
I want to welcome all the people here, especially the friends of the Scituate seniors. And Betty Johnson, would you like to say a word?
I would like to say a few
Okay.
words, and I'll be brief, and I think most of you know me. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm Betty Johnson, and I've been asked to just give you a little information about the history of the Friends of Scituate Seniors, who we are, what our plans are for the future. If you can't hear me, just wave at me. A little over a year ago, a group of citizens organized under the name of the Friends of Scituate Seniors. We gathered signatures and letters, and we campaigned for a senior center at Pier 44. And as you know, that request was denied. We were disappointed in the outcome of that campaign, but our efforts laid the groundwork for the future. A few months ago, with a renewed sense of purpose, we met to begin the process of formally organizing Friends of Scituate Seniors as a nonprofit community advocacy group. We had hoped to save time and money by resurrecting the inactive Scituate Senior Association, but were unable to reach the former officers and directors, so we've enlisted the services of a local attorney and a CPA to file the necessary paperwork to establish the Friends of Scituate Seniors as a 501c3 nonprofit organization. The first order of business was to determine our mission. We voted and declared that our mission is to support the Scituate Council on Aging and to advocate for appropriate space, services, and programs for Scituate's senior population. With that mission in mind, we reacted quickly to this board's rejection of the senior center included in the recent Gates feasibility study. In an effort to inform the public of the inadequacies of the Gates plan, we created a flyer with information about the Gates feasibility plan. It also included comparative information about senior centers in surrounding towns and information about the old Branch Street plan. We distributed the flyer around town and at the town meeting last week. I won't rehash the reaction to the flyer, but I think everyone can agree that it did help raise awareness. Margaret Mead said, "Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has." Well, maybe we haven't changed the world, but we have raised awareness of the needs of seniors in our town, and we have raised awareness that senior citizens in Scituate are not a voiceless minority. We do care, and we do vote, and will continue. We're putting the pieces in place to make the Friends of Scituate Seniors a positive force in our community. We're building a database of supporters. We're pulling in a variety of talents. We've recently created a Facebook page that has developed a following. We're working on a website that will be live in the next couple of months. And soon we'll have the resources to create and send mailings to residents who don't have computer access. All of these things are intended to keep our community informed of how Scituate is addressing the needs of our aging population. Our mission is to support the Council on Aging, and that includes the Council on Aging's advisory board. We're here to support you. We all know that it's going to take some work to bring an appropriate plan for a new senior center to the table. This Council on Aging board is made up of volunteers, and we know that your time is limited by family and work obligations. We don't expect you to do this all on your own. Please know that the Friends of Scituate Seniors is here to help you. And as soon as there is a plan on the table, we'll begin working on a campaign to raise awareness and support that plan. Our group is in this for the long haul. We look forward to the future when Scituate has a vibrant new senior center, and the Friends of Scituate seniors can focus on supporting programs and services that enrich the lives of our senior citizens. We look forward to working together. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And Marty, I didn't know if you wanted to say anything.
No, I'm good.
Okay, thank you. Did anyone want to say anything about the selectmen, when we met with some of the selectmen on October 31st?
Can I just say something about the Friends of the Scituate Seniors? I am very happy that you have organized so well since I first heard about the inception of your idea, and that was quite a while ago. And to be honest, I kind of wondered, I just said, well, you know, I think they have good intentions, and I hope that, you know, they follow through. And just seeing you all here tonight, not to mention that along the way I speak with several of you, but it is so encouraging. And I, for one, I speak for myself, and I'm sure that others on the board would agree. I'm so happy that you have come as far as you have, and that you are willing to spend your time. You have families, you have other interests, and to spend your free time to organize to help us and to help the seniors of Scituate. But it's just great to see your enthusiasm and your commitment. So I thank you.
And we all agree with that.
Yep.
Thank you very much.
Yep.
Thank you for being here.
I have a question. Hopefully it's not out of.
Go ahead.
I missed the October meeting and I apologize, but I did get a copy of the minutes. And I was wondering about there was a discussion about the lock on the door at the old Pier 44 building. And I just didn't know if.
That just came up, sorry, Miss.
Oh,
I asked
I
that
did, I'm
question.
sorry, okay.
And to our knowledge, it hasn't been repeated.
Okay. Marty, do you know anything about that?
I have it written down, we'll find out about it.
Was there any comment about the October 31st meeting? I think, you know, we were able to express our needs, was my main concern, and Richard did a very good presentation. And I think that was well received.
I think we gave out accurate information that along the way, the rumor was it wasn't accurate, so we wanted to recognize we can help this whole cause by stating the facts objectively.
Once again, the Mariner supports the seniors in giving accurate information all around. And in fact, it's up there on the board, but the Mariner did a nice article on the meeting, that the open meeting with the selectmen, and they reported very accurately, although I wasn't there at that meeting, but it appears they gave an accurate report, so that the townspeople can also be more aware of what's transpiring in the seniors' efforts to get a senior center.
Yeah, the Patriot Ledger has had articles too. All right, the council, so I went to the South Shore LD meeting, and we have a new selection of officers. The president is John Malloy, vice president is John Fleming, the treasurer is Connie Laughlin, and the secretary is Maureen Murphy. If you don't know, the South Shore LD Services has a board, and they have a representative from every council of agents. And that's what makes up the board, just in case you don't know, but and we meet once a month. And the other thing is they come up with it, the day after Thanksgiving is now a holiday, so there'll be no Meals on Wheels the day after Thanksgiving.
So what do the people do? What do they do for food?
They will give them extra meals.
Oh, okay.
But like, if it's a holiday, we give them extra meals, so then they get
Tide them
extra
over.
meals. Okay?
So they won't stop.
I went to the South Shore Elderly's annual meeting, which was on Thursday. And the new offices were announced, and then it's where all the awards are given out to the workers and staff. And the key speaker was a lawyer who was Philip Murphy, and he is on the board of South Shore Elderly Services. And he mainly talked about the different changes going on. And the board member of the year was Edward Mulvey, and he was the outgoing president. And Sandra Lindsley, who was the chief executive officer, gave a great speech about the goals and whatnot of the South Shore Elderly Services. You will probably be seeing their name change because they're not only for the elderly, but they're for any adult handicapped people. So they provide services already for them. And they have also extensive protected for any of the adults, seniors and disabled. They have one fundraiser coming up, if you haven't heard about it, and it's the Health and Wellness Walkathon, and it's held this coming Sunday at 8:30 at the South Shore Plaza. And then I don't want you to forget that at St. Luke's we have the community dinner, and we're gonna honor Florence, and all are welcome. We're gonna have roast beef, baked potatoes, peas and mushrooms, and a special cake. And that's November 24th, the Sunday before Thanksgiving at 5 o'clock. Is there anything else to, I think that's all the reports, just very easy here. Do I have a motion that we adjourn? Second?
Second.
All in favor? Thank you very much.